Hello guys, today we're going to actually have a review over using distributive property with multi-step equations. The title of the lesson, problem set 31. Your geometry is going to be number 2 only, and the lesson is called equations with parentheses. But this is not something that is new. If you remember last week's multi-step worksheet number 2, this was part of that. You did have a difficulty with it, so I want to make sure that you're understanding. So on the board I have 31.4, and if you could follow along, I'm going to work that one out for you. So there's a little bit of a glare. Let me try to. Alright, so this is negative right here. I'm going to distribute the negative into the parentheses. Remember that when you have a negative next to the parentheses, it actually implies that there's a 1 there. It's understood. So if it helps you, you can put a 1 in front of it, and that'll show you that it's actually saying negative 1 times 2x plus negative 1 times 5. So that's one way that you can do that to help yourself out. So I'm going to distribute, and I'm going to come up with 12 minus 2x minus 5 equals minus 2. And then I'm going to distribute the positive as well. I'm going to put a 1 here, and that's 1 times x is positive 1x, and then 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. So there I now have a multi-step equation that has been, you already used the distributive property to eliminate the parentheses. The next step, and again, this is one area in which a few of you are still getting confused. You're trying to combine like terms by using inverse operations on each side of an equation, and remember that you cannot do that. You actually have to combine like terms by adding and subtracting first, and then once you have simplified, then you use inverse operations to put variables on one side of the equation and constants on the other. So my like terms here are the 12 and the negative 5. So I'm going to say 12 minus 5 is 7. I'm going to drop down the negative 2x. On the right side, my like terms are negative 2 and negative 3, which is going to be negative 5, and I'm going to drop down the 1x. I now have a more simplified equation. I'm ready to move my x's on one side, so I'm going to choose to move the 2 to the right so I can keep positive variables. So that's going to be positive 2x, positive 2x. I'm going to add those together. I end up with 3x. Since I move the variables to the right, I'm going to move the constants to the left by using the inverse, which is addition. And I come up with 12 equals 3x. I'm going to just go ahead and move this over here. I'm going to say 12 equals 3x, divide by the 3, divide by the 3, and the solution is x equals 4. Okay, so please be sure you take your time to do those equations, and you make sure that you are distributing the negative first and then combining like terms. Okay, let's do the next one, which is 31.5. I'm going to erase all of this. Hopefully you got all of that. You can rewatch the video, rewind it, whatever, if you need to go over that again. A couple of you, I suspect, have not been watching my videos because when I do the examples, you get them wrong on your homework. So please be mindful and do the videos, watch them. I take the time to record them to help you out. All right, here's another negative. So we're going to say negative 1. Over on the right side, there's a negative, so I'm going to put negative 1. And then I have a positive, so I'm going to put positive 1. Now I'm going to distribute. I'm going to say negative 1 times 4. Now let me check that there. That should be a 4y, not an x. So this should be negative 4y. Negative times negative would make positive 17. Then I have positive and negative would be negative 1y. And then on the right side, I'm going to have 2y minus 1. Notice I dropped those parentheses. I no longer need them. Then I'm going to have negative 1 times negative y is positive 1y. Okay, now my like terms are going to be my variables. So I have negative 4 and negative 1 makes negative 5y plus 17. And on the right side, my like terms are 2y plus 1y, so that's 3y minus 1. I have now simplified each side of my equation, so I'm going to move the variables I'm going to go ahead and move them to the right so I can keep a positive variable. So plus 5y makes 8y. Since I move the variable to the right, I have to move the variable to the left, so the constant to the left. So I'm going to add 1, which is the inverse operation, and I end up with 18 equals 8y. I'm going to divide it by 8, divided by 8, which means I'm going to go over here, so 18 over 8. Divide that by 2 to reduce it, and you end up with 9 over 4 equals y. There we go. Let me verify. And yes, that is correct. Y equals 9 over 4. So in a nutshell, that is how you're going to do your two-step equations. If you have questions, please let me know, and do take your time. You guys do know how to do these. This is not a new concept, but it is one that's giving you a hard time, and this is going to set you up for doing the next step of algebra that we're going to be learning when we factor out a common denominator. It's really important that you grasp this concept. Again, your geometry for this lesson is only number 2. If you guys have questions, let me know. Thanks.